So good morning, everyone. It's right at 10:30, so we're going to go ahead and start on time. And good morning to everyone that's streaming. We are streaming the session. The session will be available on GEMS afterwards. So if you miss anything, and if you want to refer someone in your department to the session, they can log in and access the video there. So this morning, we're doing something different for our office. Usually you guys come and hear a session from me that kind of just goes over everything. And so I figured that was kind of information overload. So this year I've decided to separate out each fellowship. We're also going to continue this in the spring and separate out our summer programs and our other fellowships as well. So everything's going to be in one session versus you guys having to hear everything in 1 hour, because I realize it's not effective. You don't get to ask a question and then I'm like on to the next thing. So for this one, we're focusing primarily on the McNair graduate assistantship in our office. And because we're focusing on that particular award, a lot of people are not aware of the undergraduate components of this particular award. So I've invited Dr. Samesha Barnes, who's our director here at UF, for you guys to be aware of what the program is, opportunities that are available, and then we'll transition right into the graduate component, which most of you guys are working with. So what we're going to do today is we're going to start out with the overview of the UF McNair Scholars Program here. We're going to talk about ways that you guys can think about recruiting these scholars, because they are very highly trained scholars. I like to recruit them all the time. And then we'll kind of go into the funding that's available to you guys. We'll talk about our handy dandy agreement forms, how those will work, and hopefully you guys will have a lot of questions so we can kind of make this kind of a collaborative activity between my office and your office, and we'll figure out how we can fund students so that they can come to UF. So I'm going to have Dr. Barnes start out. So we're going to have a brief pause while she uploads her presentation, but we're going to talk about what the Ronald E. McNair program is at the University of Florida and just as a whole.
Good morning. I am Samesha Barnes. I'm the director of the McNair Scholars Program at UF. Our formal long name is the Ronald E. McNair Post-Baccalaureate Achievement Program, and we are all about preparing undergraduate students for graduate education. Just to give you a little bit of background on our program, it's a national program named in honor of Dr. Ronald E. McNair. Many of you are probably familiar with him. You might be old enough like me to remember when he perished in the Space Shuttle Challenger accident, along with several other crew members. But what's noteworthy about him is that he came from a rural background in South Carolina, and he went on, despite a lot of obstacles that he faced in segregation and other things, challenges in his graduate career. He went on to earn a PhD in physics from MIT, along with several other prestigious awards. And not just that, he went on to become an astronaut, but he was a very well-rounded person. So he was also not only a scholar, but a 5th degree karate black belt and a very accomplished jazz saxophonist. Why does that matter? Because it's a part of our training for our students, is teaching them to be well-rounded scholars and not be one-dimensional. So our program is funded by a grant from the U.S. Department of Education. We are part of a family of programs called TRIO programs. So there were originally 3, and that's why they're called TRIO, but there's several now. But noteworthy programs in that family are Upward Bound, Student Support Services, which we have here at UF, Talent Search, and there's Veterans Upward Bound, there's SSS STEM, there's various ways to implement these programs, but they're all designed for the same student population, which is low-income first-generation students. And in the case of McNair, they also add students who are underrepresented at the graduate level as far as being eligible to participate. So there are currently 187 McNair programs nationally, so that's a large number of universities where students are being groomed for graduate education. The overall goal of this national program is to increase PhD attainment by students who are low-income first generation as defined by the Department of Education, or who are underrepresented in graduate education as defined by the department, and you'll see that on another slide. The long-term goal is to just increase students from this background participation in research and teaching careers, to thereby diversify the professoriate and research, and hopefully bring in other students from this background to pursue higher education and understand that it's something attainable for them. So if I just point out Upward Bound, for example, in Talent Search, target high school students to prepare them to go to college. Student Support Services programs help students to navigate college and graduate. And McNair is at that top tier where we're now taking the upper level students and preparing them to go on to get PhD specifically. Our program was first funded at UF in 1995, and we are funded to support 26 students per year. So, what are the benefits of students participating in our program? They have a lot of seminars, workshops, training, hands-on to prepare them to be successful in graduate education. All of our students do faculty mentored research, and they receive a stipend for doing that. They're getting coached through the graduate school application process, so they're not having to navigate that process on their own. We're helping them to prepare personal statements, reviewing them, helping them to obtain letters of recommendation, show them how to put together a packet to give to faculty, all of those things that go along with the process, reaching out to faculty members who they're interested in working with. Our students, if they're having any difficulties academically, we provide tutoring, or at least point them in the direction of tutoring services to help them kind of bring up their grades, or at least successfully complete their coursework. They're mentored by the faculty that work with them in research, but we also have PhD students who mentor our students that are called our peer advisors. So there's a multi-level layer of mentoring with amongst themselves, with their faculty mentors, with PhD students, the staff, and even sometimes our alumni. So our students are very well supported. We also provide academic counseling, personal counseling, career planning, and all of our students, because they are doing research, we build into the structure of our program where they have an opportunity to present their research, not only locally at our McNair Symposium, but many of our students are traveling to conferences all over the country, sometimes internationally, to present their research that they've been working on with faculty. They also have funding to go visit prospective graduate programs. So this would come into play with students maybe outside of UF. Their McNair program can fund them to actually come and visit, or fund their trip to their interviews, for example, if your department doesn't fund those. And last but not least, because these are students who typically have a financial barrier, and that sometimes kind of precludes them from pursuing graduate education if they're interested, McNair scholars are eligible to receive fee waivers for their graduate school applications. So most universities in the U.S., and UF is one of those schools, will automatically waive application fees for McNair scholars as long as they can prove that they participated, which usually requires a letter from their McNair director or a standard form that the McNair program provides. In a lot of universities, because McNair scholars are so highly prepared, it's competitive to get them into your program. A lot of universities offer fellowship packages or assistantships specifically for McNair scholars to apply for. And Tyisha will talk more about that in her presentation. So what are the eligibility requirements for our students? U.S. citizen or permanent residents, because it is a federal program. They should be rising juniors or seniors, so we're getting students at the tail end of their education, and they shouldn't be graduating prior to the May that they're applying to the program. That way they can participate in the entire suite of programming that we have. So it's not a scholarship program, it's a comprehensive program where students are being groomed summer, fall, and spring. Students should have a cumulative GPA of 3.0 or higher, and meet at least one of the requirements. They should be first generation students who meet the income criteria that the Department of Education sets forth, or be a member of a group that they consider to be underrepresented in graduate education, and that is specifically Alaska Native, American Indian, Black, Hispanic, Native Hawaiian, or Native American Pacific Islander. So we all know, because you all work in graduate education, there are other groups that are underrepresented, but these are the groups that the department has identified, so we are required to stick by those for the funding purposes. The students have to identify a faculty mentor to work with and who will guide their research project. And we scrutinize very heavily for students who have a sincere commitment to pursuing a PhD. So we do take students who are interested in joint programs like MD PhD, JD PhD, and many of our students do go on to pursue those. But when a student says MD, it's like a flag. So in the interview process, we will make sure we kind of determine if the student's interest in the PhD is sincere or stronger versus they're kind of iffy about it, because we are evaluated by our PhD completion rates. So our application process involves a form that is available on our website. It's pretty standard, it has basic information about the students. They submit a personal statement, a resume. They're required to have 3 recommendations. 2 should be from faculty. The reason that we do that in our program is that students should be, by this time, building those relationships with faculty who could write them recommendations for graduate school. So we want them to at least already have 2 of those people, and maybe we can help them to forge another relationship to get a 3rd. They have to demonstrate proof of eligibility in terms of their financial status or other status. And our application deadline is always around January 31st, so if that falls on a weekend, the date will shift. You can't probably see this very well. I can't see it from back here, but our applications are submitted at the end of January. Qualified applicants, so students who meet the minimum criteria, will be invited for interviews, which take place in the middle of February. Then our selections are announced in early March. Then students have to let us know that they're committing to the McNair program and have a faculty mentor in place by the beginning of April, and then the program officially starts at the beginning of summer C. So I just want to reiterate, and this is probably not as important for you all, that our program is not a scholarship, it's a comprehensive program designed to get students from the undergraduate level all the way to the PhD, and that is the national objective of the McNair program. Where we are structured, we have a very rigorous summer component, so that's the meat or the heart of our program, is the UF McNair Summer Research Internship. A lot of our new students participate in that, but some of our students actually go and do REUs or other research experiences outside of UF. There's a lot that goes into that. Our students go through an orientation, there's team building, they take a research and methods class, they're doing research with their mentor, they get preparation for the GRE, and we have a graduate admissions boot camp at the end of the summer, so it's like our last ditch effort to get our seniors kind of geared up for the application process in the fall, and Dr. Hathorn helps us out with that every year and helps with reviewing personal statements and CVs and that. Our students also travel to a national McNair conference, and many of them are presenting their research there. And we expect them to take the GRE by the start of the fall semester, so it's out of the way and not crammed in with the busy, crazy fall, because our students are already going crazy right now. So we try to eliminate some of the extra pressure by kind of guiding them or stepping them through the process. And they all give a presentation on their research at the end of the summer at our symposium. In the fall and the spring, it's a little less intense because now students are back in their regular coursework and regular schedules. So they do continue working on research on a part-time basis with their mentor, and then we are only meeting with them once a month as opposed to several times a week in the summer. They start meeting with the PhD students who are matched up with them to provide mentoring. Those students may help review a research poster or presentation, or another person to review personal statements, or just kind of talk to them about their concerns or where are they in the process of getting their materials together. They're traveling more so individually to conferences, so a lot of our students travel with their faculty mentors to professional conferences, or some of them set up their own visits to graduate programs, or they're participating in structured graduate visitation programs as well. We do have fun, so they do work hard, but we believe in playing hard as well. So we do some social activities and cultural activities as well. And then our students are going through the process of applying for graduate programs and fellowships, and writing a research paper for the program. So all of those things are happening in the fall and the spring. This is our cohort, so I know, I just want you to kind of get an idea that our program is diverse as far as the fields where students are coming from. But we do have an emphasis on STEM because that was one of the focus areas for the Department of Education as far as competing for McNair programs this year. And there's a national interest in that. I'm from a STEM background, but I also am very passionate about not leaving behind students who are not in STEM, because a lot of times there's not as many opportunities for them. So we have students in engineering, chemistry, sociology, psychology, in a variety of fields. So all disciplines are open to participate in our program. So just to kind of shake things up a little bit, and before we kind of close out with some how can we interact with you or why should you recruit McNair Scholars, just kind of want to give you a couple of snapshots of where some of our alumni have gone. So some of our recent graduates, Kiana Elliott is currently pursuing her PhD in plant microbial biosciences at Washington University in St. Louis, and she is a UF Hall of Famer. Adrian Ortega is pursuing his PhD in clinical child psychology in Kansas. Brittany Powell is pursuing a Master's of Public Health at USF, so some of our students do stay in the state, and some of our students do stay at UF, and you'll see a couple of them here. Adrena Nguyen, so she was in graphic design, so that's a completely different field than we had before, but her interest was in art therapy, so now she's doing her Master's in art therapy at Florida State. So just noteworthy, although our goal is PhD attainment, our students sometimes start out in master's programs, and that is okay. The main thing is that we try to help encourage that they don't stop there, that they go on to continue, and that can be a challenge. But our students can start out in a master's program. We don't just insist that they start at a PhD, because everyone's not ready, and some programs want to admit undergrads directly in a PhD. Caitlin just finished her Master's in Public Health at Berkeley. She was a UF Homecoming Queen, also a Hall of Famer. This is one of our students, Josiane Joseph, who's doing an MD PhD at Mayo Clinic. Brad Gano, another student at Berkeley, he's doing his PhD in chemistry, and he's an NSF graduate fellowship program recipient. We have a number of those from our program. We push very hard for that. I'm actually a reviewer for the NSF fellowship, so we really push our students applying for that free money, which makes them really attractive for your programs. Jershelle finished her Master's in Public Health and is now doing her PhD in Medical Sciences at USF. Bertrude, so this is one of our alumni who stayed at UF. Bertrude just really made her mark at UF, but she got her PhD in Agricultural Communication, and she launched her own nonprofit when she was still an undergraduate at UF and a McNair Scholar. So she's the CEO and co-founder of Projects for Haiti. I don't know if any of you all are familiar, but they do a lot of services in Haiti, and so this is her full-time job now. But she got her PhD right here at UF. Pierre is another UF alum who stayed here. So he got all of his degrees here in computer engineering, and he's a software engineer at Google, and he did do a visiting assistant professorship prior to that. The last two people I'm going to highlight are just faculty who came through our program and are faculty here now at UF. So Carla Shonut, who is in Family, Youth, and Community Sciences, and also Food Science and Human Nutrition, and Christina Romagosa. So I don't know if any of you are from any of these programs or these departments, but Christina Romagosa is in Wildlife Ecology and Conservation, and so she and Carla both came through the UF McNair program as undergrads. And the last person I'm going to touch on is Antonio Farias, who is our new Chief Diversity Officer, the first one ever at UF, and he was a McNair Scholar when he was an undergrad, and he came to our research symposium this summer and gave us a nice little shout out, and he just talked about the impact that McNair had on his life. So, and we're hoping that we have that same impact on our students. So, with all of that said, why should you recruit McNair Scholars? So, Tyisha already hinted at this earlier. Our students have been groomed. They've been vetted for graduate education. They go through a selection process, so not just the application itself, but we have an advisory council, and we have PhD students who interview our students when they're applying for the program. So there's at least this preliminary level of screening that they've gone through as far as a selection process. These are students who are high achieving that have already have an expressed interest at this level of going on to get a PhD. So the motivation is there, which is very important in persisting at the graduate level. We try to socialize them to the graduate experience as much as possible, so they're not completely unfamiliar with what to expect. So some of our workshops talk about things like imposter phenomenon and how do you navigate feeling isolated or like you don't belong, what to do when you're the only one who looks like you in your department. So they're kind of getting ready for what they might encounter, so it's not a shock for them. They understand how to work with faculty. They know how to work with a research team or with other scholars. They're familiar with the research process. They have presented research and have written about research. In some cases, some of our students are co-authors on publications from their McNair undergraduate research with their faculty members. They know how to navigate professional conferences, so things that they're going to experience, they've already kind of had a taste of that at the undergraduate level. They may come with their own funding. So some of our, like I said, many of our students go on to get NSF, Ford, and other types of competitive fellowships. But even if they don't come with that, they've at least been prepared and know what to expect, so that they come into your department, they should know how to put together a competitive application to apply again. Like say they didn't get an NSF the first time, they at least know what to expect if they're going to apply for it in their first year in their graduate program. Other key things are they bring diverse perspectives and experiences to a graduate program, and that is important for all of us sitting in this room and for UF as a whole. And last but not least, they have a support network that is going to encourage their success. So the job is not just on you or just on the department. Like their McNair family, wherever they're coming from across the country, is mandated to support them and track them until they finish. Now, does that always happen? No. But more times than not, that does happen. So how can you recruit McNair scholars? I'm not going to go into too much detail because I know that is what Dr. Hathorn is going to focus on, but I would just say that you can partner with us locally to recruit students from right here. So a lot of the best and brightest are here working with faculty, and if you have shining stars in your program now who, many of our students say like, I want to stay at UF. Other students are like, I can't wait to get out of Gainesville. So we have both of those happening here, but for those who are interested or slightly interested in staying here, you have a ripe field to kind of pluck those who are already familiar with your program by recruiting them from UF, and you can use our scholars as ambassadors, for example, to help meet with other students who are applying to your programs. You can advertise, and I won't steal her thunder, so I'll skip down to the bottom because there's other things that you can do independently, but you can also work smarter and not harder by partnering with her office to kind of accomplish some of these other goals that are here. So I think I will close with that by introducing Team McNair. So who makes all this happen? These are our current peer advisors. These are the PhD students who mentor. We're currently recruiting 2 others, one in psychology and one in education. And these are our advisory council members. So these are our partners on campus who help with our selection process. And we meet with them usually once a year to kind of get input about how we can improve things or just kind of giving them an update on what's going on with our program. And this is our staff, and so it's a very small staff. Myself, a program assistant, Rhonda Vincent, and a graduate assistant, and all of our contact information is here. So that's it for me. Do you all have any questions?
Do we get a copy of your PowerPoint presentation by any chance? Is that
Sure, absolutely. Yes.
What's the requirement to be part of the advisory council?
Interest. So if you're definitely interest and support for the McNair mission. So if you're interested in that, please, you can send me an email. I do have my cards here and a couple of little pamphlets about our program, but it's time for us to probably recruit new members. We just got very comfortable with our people, but it is time. So if you have an interest in that, please let me know, because this is about the time where we should be kind of changing over and bringing some new people on board. So yes, we love partner. We love people who are interested in working with us. So yes, please reach out. All right, well, thank you.
All right. so I hope you guys learned something from, having Dr. Barnes here. If you guys are not actively involved in recruitment of your students, at least tell the person in your department that is to kind of watch this video to make sure that they're aware of the opportunity of the McNair program as a resource. One of the things that I think is a missed opportunity is just the fact of having the undergraduates in particular departments. A lot of these students have to kind of hustle and find a research advisor versus the departments really let them know that the opportunities are available and that they're welcoming to undergrads. So they spend a lot of time trying to find the research advisor in that group. So we talked about the McNair program, which kind of is coupled to what Dr. Barnes was saying, that a lot of universities across the country have funding available for these students. So our funding comes from the Provost's office. Our dean, maybe, I don't know, I guess about 20 years ago, decided that this was an important program and that we were going to have support for these students. About 3 years ago, we changed the format of the program from being just a one-year assistantship to a 4-year. So this is probably our second year having it as a 4-year package, so it's fairly new. Each year, we roughly have about 5 scholars total. We have a space for about 15 of them, so it's a lot of opportunity there that's still currently missed. We do actively recruit a lot of times, but we get beat out by larger institutions, so we lose to Emory, we lose to Notre Dame, University of Michigan, so they go other places, but we do actively try to keep them here. This year we had 3 of our McNair scholars actually stay and continue on into the PhD program, so I try my best to do that. So what can you guys do to recruit, right? So there are, first you have Dr. Barnes. If you guys have her card, put her in contact with someone that she needs to be in contact with so they can have regular communication. A lot of the students listen to her, so they vet where they go via their program director. She's like their mom here. So they ask their mom where they can go, then they ask Dr. B where they should go. And so if she can say that, hey, if you go to soil and water, you're going to be taken care of because I know so-and-so there, they will listen to that. So a lot of times, just because you have a shiny program that has big numbers, if you don't have a relationship and kind of what I consider kind of a pipeline, these students will not apply and they will not go. So it's important to develop those relationships. So if you guys have opportunities and you have travel budgets, because money is always a kind of a problem around here sometimes, attend the McNair conferences. We have some that are fairly close, and I'll show you where those are. And then there's actually a McNair database. So this database is given to us each year. It's released to our dean. I actually manage it, and I'll give you a little brief snippet on that. And then establish relationships with other McNair directors. So where you guys attended undergrad, or if you go to a conference and you happen to just run into a McNair director, keep those relationships going, because just like they listen to Dr. B, they're going to listen to Dr. Smith on their campus of where they're going, and so those are important. Our office has established a relationship with UCF. We have established a relationship with FIU. So we kind of try to maintain our relationships within the state. We do need your help to kind of reach out a little bit further than that. And I have a connection at Vanderbilt as well. So here are the conferences. This is the website. I know you can't read any of this. The point that I put this up here was, number one, to make you realize that there is a website for the McNair program itself. And then there's conferences. They have it listed out for fall, spring, and summer. So these things are happening all across the country. You can click on these and it gives you information about where you can attend. There are 3 that I'm going to highlight here. So one that happens in University of Maryland, Baltimore County. I have actually not attended this conference myself, but my colleagues attend it every year. And Dr. Barnes sends a lot of her students, and so she recommends this one. We've missed it this year. It was actually early September, but it happens each year in early September. There's one that's more local, that's at FIU. This one happens about mid-October. Our office does attend this one every year, and we do our best to kind of represent the University of Florida, but we would be more than happy to have other departments present, even to take your materials if you want to give them to us. We have materials from various departments all the time. MBA is really good about sending us stuff, but I guess it's because they're right across the way there, but we are more than welcome to take your stuff and represent you. We, at all of these events, we collect student information, and then we end up kind of disseminating it to you guys. So if there's a student that's interested in your program and we have the correct contact, we will send that information over to you. And then the last one is my favorite, actually, because it's the National McNair Conference and it happens in Atlanta. So this happens during the summer. Is this the biggest conference. I will say it's about the biggest, several hundred McNair scholars, well prepared, well poised. They ask very deep and thoughtful questions at the table. They follow up, and they're just ready for graduate education. We attend this one every summer, and so if you guys can make the trip up to Atlanta, it would be definitely something to look into. Fairly cheap conference. I think registration is about $300, so not so bad to attend that one. So this McNair database is usually available early fall. So they just gave it to us last week. They released it to the dean, I want to say last Thursday. And to get access to it, you kind of shoot me an email, and then I give you a password protected Excel sheet. There was roughly about 400 names in there, and that's just me skimming. I get a lot of databases. As you can see, I have access to other databases besides the McNair. We have a database for FAMU students. We have a database called the National Name Exchange, which is an exchange of names with universities across the nation. So if you are interested in sending some direct invitations to a list of students for your particular program, I will give you access to that. And then one opportunity that's missed for McNair is the fact of inviting them to your summer programs. As you can see, the first term or first point in their program is a summer research opportunity. So if you have those, there is a place on the McNair website that we can post those. You can also advertise those to these students, because the students that are in the database are juniors and rising seniors. So they're fairly early. You can start these interactions earlier than you think. You don't have to hit them fall of their senior year. You can start interacting with them June, of their junior year. So this is something that you can cultivate these relationships. So another way or a suggestion I have is just that just identify kind of patterns of pipelines. So if you know that your students are coming from a particular university, figure out why. So is there a director there that's kind of telling them that the University of Florida is a cool place and you should go? Or if their McNair director is kind of shuttling that, identify those pipelines and try to figure out how to maintain those. You might even want to have some agreements with those particular departments to say, hey, potentially we can have one student each year from your particular department. I don't know how hard those agreements are to set up at your level, but I know we can set those agreements up at the graduate school level, or either set aside small top-ups. So you have an active decision that you're going to recruit McNair scholars from North Carolina A&T, just throwing out a university, and you're going to give those students an extra $2,000. So that it kind of sets an agreement that you really want their students, you respect that you guys have a relationship, and that you're willing to take care of them when they come. So Dr. Barnes listed faculty members that are actual McNair scholars that are currently here. Utilize those faculty members. See if they're willing to reach out to their McNair program back at their institutions and establish a relationship, or either just tell the students, hey, I have faculty members that went to your institution, and see if they would be encouraged to come and meet with those individuals. The last one is that basically you can invite McNair directors. So you can invite Dr. Barnes over to your department to talk to her about what you have to offer. And then one interesting initiative that Dr. Barnes actually attended, was it at Vanderbilt?
Yes.
At the
and at University of Rochester, similar.
So they invite all of the McNair directors across the country to come and visit their campus, and they talk to them about graduate education that's available. We consider doing something similar, but we definitely would need your help. But it's, like I said, it's really the McNair directors that are helping shape these students and where they go. So it might be worth an opportunity to invite the directors that are USF or UCF. They'll make the short drive. They contact our office all the time to come up. They're actually coming during Education Week this year. So Graduate Education Week that's put on by our office is October 22nd through the 26th, and we have UCF coming up, their trio program directors coming up. So you guys can kind of use some of these to your advantage. Because from my office being kind of the overarching department for all of the 250 graduate programs, we do our best, but we definitely need to partner with you guys to really recruit these students here. So before I switch there, do you guys have any questions about recruitment or anything about the databases or anything about the McNair program before I get into the nitty-gritty, which you guys probably are really here for, and that's what is the assistantship and what are the new regulations? Do you have any questions about that? Small group, quiet. All right, so we have our graduate assistantship, and so these students have to be interested in the PhD program. I know Dr. Barnes put up the EDD program, but our funding is only for the PhD program. They have to be entering for fall of each year, so fall 2019. So current doctoral students are not eligible. I get that question a lot. Master students are not eligible for our funding either, even though they can go into a master's program. But in the graduate school, they have to be PhD seeking students. They must have successfully completed the McNair program, meaning that they have to have a letter from their director saying that they were in the program. They can't say, hey, I applied, or I dropped out, or I knew about a McNair program. They have to complete it, right? And then in order to be eligible, you guys have to partner with us to agree to support the students. So that's kind of the eligibility criteria. So the students actually self-identify themselves as McNair scholars. Have you guys seen that on the graduate applications before? So Kim is saying yes and Amy's saying yes. So on the graduate application, there are 3 boxes. There's one that indicates that they were McNair, one that indicates for FAMU feeder, and one for McKnight. And then there's another box about just funding in general. So I don't know how it appears on your screen because my screens look very different, but you can figure out who these students are and identify them early if they're McNair scholars. And so once you realize that and you are interested in them, you can contact us immediately and we can start figuring out how we can fund this particular student. So once they've applied and submitted an application to you guys, we'll reach out to them to submit an application to us, and then we'll begin thinking about a funding agreement. We make this money very easy. So our application deadline is April 23rd, and it's only April 23rd because we need to switch gears at some point and start working on another term, but it's open as long as possible just to make it available. But it's on a rolling basis. So if you had a student contact you next week and you said that you were going to admit them, we can start this process next week. We can get the agreement going and we could award them as soon as possible. So that's just, if you have, we push it that far back because you guys have waitlisted students, right? So you have the students have until April 15th to decide whether they're going to come to the University of Florida. So you have a small population of students that will tell you after April 15th, and we want to make this opportunity available to as many students as possible. So we don't make it difficult, we make it easy. So our students that are eligible would receive 4 years of a graduate assistantship, and this is the base stipend for this particular year, which would be the same, and excuse my typo there, I probably had another one before. But anyway, it's $26,080, and I'll show you how that lays out. These students get in-state tuition, fees, and health insurance. If you were to award a student that's eligible for a McNair, a graduate school fellowship, so a GSFA, their minimum stipend would be $31,000 for 5 years, tuition fees, health insurance. Okay. So this is how it would lay out. So for years 1 and 2, the graduate school is providing a supplement of $12,000 plus recovering fees, plus recovering tuition and health insurance. The department would be only responsible for $14,080 stipend only. So no fringe or anything other than just putting in a stipend. You guys would be responsible for providing full support in years 3 through 4 thereafter. So this is what our agreement forms look like. We kind of just lay it out of who's paying for what. This is very helpful for our fiscal people that have to input these things. It's also very helpful because graduate coordinators rotate out either every 1 or 2 years, and when these agreements are made, come year 5 for the particular student, people don't even remember what the McNair program was, who said that they were going to fund what. So we try to put as much information in this particular agreement here. So you can put down that you're going to agree to the basic structure, which is a .33 FTE. It could be a teaching assistantship, it could be a research assistantship. You can tell which faculty member is going to provide this money. You can put all sorts of things. This is a roadmap of how this is going to work out for 5 years, and it is very helpful because there's no confusion. It's very quick because you don't have to check your emails. You can go into a file. You don't have to go across the hall to your department chair to figure out what he told the dean of the graduate school he was going to pay. You have it all in one document. So on this form, you will see that there is a year 5 written down here. Because we have agreed, our office and you have agreed to support the students for 4 years. We really just don't want them to drop off the radar. So if there is some reason that they need one more semester to get out, because we want a return on our investment we put in 4 years, we don't want them to just become ABD. We're hoping that you will honor that and give them that extra semester, but really be making them aware that, hey, we really want you to get done in this particular program. Some of you offer 5 years of support, so this is not really an issue, but I know a lot of departments is only 4 years. But what we're saying is, if we are going to partner with you to support the student for 4 years, we're hoping that you'll do your best to make sure that they actually get out and they're able to get out. So some people have like a death in family, or their research projects take a little bit longer, they have to change advisors. If it's certain things, if they're on track to graduate, and we're hoping that you guys will support them. So once we do this, we get a couple signatures. You guys are free to tell them that we've awarded you this particular scholarship. We will allow you to add our money into your letter of your award letters to say, we're going to give you a .33 FTE at this amount, and the Office of Graduate Diversity Initiatives is going to give you a fellowship. We do send them a secondary follow-up letter. We do communicate our portion with them once the semester starts. We don't intervene when you guys are recruiting them, but we do during the summer eventually reach out to say, this is our fellowship. So we have you completing this form, because once the student is awarded, this is all you are obligated to, completely. This is all you're obligated to put into the system. So if you say that you're doing a .3 FTE, you would go in and do your LOA for .33 at $14,080. No tuition waiver put in, no matriculation fees, and this would be all that you were obligated to do. We would go in and put in our assistantship at .25 FTE with the tuition waiver and everything else. There's no transferring of money from our office to your office or vice versa. So we are doing two separate transactions. So when you get this form, this is all that you are responsible for, and we'll take care of our side of the house. It is very important that you guys stick to the .33s. I know that Kim and I were having a discussion about the new initiative that all students needed to be on a .5 total, but if you add ours in your appointment, that'll meet that .5 FTE requirement. So you do not have to put them on an additional .5 FTE in your unit, because guess what? Total is going to be a .75. They can't be a full-time student. It's going to send up all sorts of red flags. They're going to require a petition, and that does happen. We had a student this particular term that the department put them on a .5 FTE, and we put in our .75, and we had to kind of fix all of it. And it's problematic because the department actually offered the student a .5 FTE at the amount of the .5 FTE. So they're obligated at that point. So the letter that was submitted to the student was a .5 FTE at $20,500. There's no going back from at that point. So they ended up getting both. So the student kind of got a great deal this particular year. So be careful about how these are kind of going out, because once you send it to the student, you're kind of obligated. You can't pull it back. So, so just to kind of summarize what we talked about today. So I wanted you guys to be fully aware that there was an opportunity here on our campus to recruit well-prepared undergraduate students that would be perfect for your programs. And so hopefully you guys can at least take that away from what Dr. Barnes was saying to you earlier today. I wanted to make you aware that you have support for these particular students, and you have graduate assistantship via our office. We make this very easy for you guys to obtain this particular award. Deadline doesn't end until almost the very end of the spring term. We're willing to work with you guys at any point, starting tomorrow if you like. So whenever you guys have students that are McNair scholars that have applied to your program, please feel free to reach out. And then you are more than willing to award your students the moment we give you the letter in hand. So, you guys have any questions? Yes.
Do the students have to enroll in a PhD program only in the fall, or does it matter which semester they enroll in a PhD program to be eligible for this?
Do you admit other than fall?
We do.
We will honor that, yes.
Okay.
I guess you guys can hear a question in a big room. You guys are all clustered here. So if you have students that you want to admit early, if they want to come summer, if they want to come spring, we will work with you. you on their admission. It still would be a 4-year package, just shifted a little bit,
Right,
so.
okay.
You mind going over again the funding allocations? I saw 26,800, 31,000, 14,080. How? Yeah, so.
Right here, so we're giving a $12,000, 0.25 FTE assistantship, and you guys are given 0.33, which adds to the 2680. So that's what we call the basic structure. So the students cannot get anything less than 26,080. That's what is advertised on our website. That's what we send out over the listserv. We do use that database ourselves. We will advertise our funding package to the students, and that's really kind of the only interaction. Well, not the only. We advertise some summer programs to them, but we will tell them what funding is available to them for the entire University of Florida. We do not send targeted specific programs, but funding. And then you're asking about the 31,000. So this 31,000 minimum is if you decided to award a McNair, a student that would be receiving a graduate McNair assistantship, also a graduate school fellowship, so a GSF. So 2 different awards, and I'll lay those out. I don't have how that will work out. This is something that Dean Ferguson decided like 2 weeks ago of how this would, but that's the minimum. So this is
the 31,000 is different from the one above?
the 31,000 is a combination of 2 awards that come out of the graduate school. One coming out of our office, which is the one we've been talking about, but then the graduate school fellowships award. So the graduate school fellowships and the preeminence awards and all of those fun awards that make things a little difficult. But if you added those 2 together, the minimum would be 31.
And the $14,080 would not apply to the second award, the 31,000.
Yeah, so it would not. It wouldn't be 14,000. I'm going to assume it's going to end up being less because this is the money that is given from the graduate school to the colleges and then disseminated to the departments. Are you familiar with the graduate school fellowship awards or the graduate school preeminence awards? Yeah, so I'm going to assume so I can't give you a definite answer because colleges do things differently. So for instance, the College of Engineering splits their awards. The College of Medicine does it in 1/8, so it gets very complicated. But what I do is when I send you this, I also give you the other options and tell you exactly where it would come. So for this particular award, it would still be the 12,000 from our office, but then there would be a portion that's coming from the GSF, and that I have not worked out the numbers, but it depends. So it would either be full coming from the GSF, but that would be determined by how your department is using those funds. What department are you with?
Veterinary medicine.
Okay, and do they split the?
No.
Okay, so what would happen is it would be $12,000 from our office, and then the remainder would be from the GSF funds.
Okay.
And so it would be, but remember for the GSF, you guys are responsible for tuition, right? So it would be 2 years where we're paying the tuition, because we're paying the tuition here, and then you would have still GSF stipend coming from the graduate school because you're getting a GSF funding, but then the only thing you guys would have to pay is the tuition portion. But don't worry, I will lay it all out in nice numbers, and when you get this particular form from me, you just kind of pick a box, you write it all in this table, you send it to me, I'll say, okay, those numbers don't work out, or they work out, and we'll just sign it. But usually I send these out with all the different options available to kind of make it easy. But my understanding, if you do not do anything fancy with your graduate school fellowship awards, it would be half coming from our office, other half coming from the graduate school fellowship award. You would only be responsible for tuition, so it would be no stipend. Now if you split and do some funny stuff, then that's completely different business.
This requires for a 12-month appointment if you change the compensation rate over 9 months to the equivalent amount. Is that 12-month required still, or could you adjust it?
Say that again.
So if we gave them like a 9-month appointment, but we increased the compensation rate, so at the end of the 12 months, they would still earn the same amount,
Right.
would we still have to do the summer one?
Yeah, so we prefer 12 months just because, number one, the students come back to our office and say that they don't have funding, so we have to scramble to find them something. A lot of students end up taking full-time positions, which slow them down from completion. So this is really, the 12-month is really a preference. I know that there are departments that 9-month is all you do, and we work those out on the front end, but we definitely, our preference, our strong preference is 12 months, because we really want them to just kind of keep on track and be able to kind of push through versus having to take internships or full-time positions, or just kind of going home and not doing anything. Because a lot of times when they're not on appointment, everything just kind of halts in their life, unfortunately. So we can work that out though, if that you guys don't really have summer availability. And we can always keep our portion at 12 months, so that they, for the years 1 through 2, we're at 12 months, but you guys are at 9. So that's also an option. These are all workable and tailored to each department's needs. Yes?
Yeah, the graduate student awards are assigned by the graduate school based on PhD program performance
Correct.
metrics and so on.
Yeah.
Right? The one that you show, the McNair graduate student award, is that separate, or is that, or that's one of the one or more assigned by the graduate school?
Yes, it's if you take one of your assigned fellowships and give it to this particular student. Yep. I will find out, usually in the past, like I said, Dean Bryson just decided that whole little number 2 weeks ago, but in the past, there have been additional top-ups that have been available if you gave a GSF to a underrepresented student that also had additional funding. So I will find out if that is available, because we have not discussed if we're going to do top-ups, if departments decide to give underrepresented students that are on OGDI money any of the graduate school fundings. But in the past there have been. So that's helpful to kind of give to other students as well. Questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, have a good day. I'm gonna be able to attend I think Stephanie Nelson's giving a talk on the GSF. Bradley.
Oh,
Stephanie on the docket
Yes.
to do.
yes.
Yes.
The,
So I'll make sure before, is it 17th, does that sound right?
yeah, I want to say something.
I'll try to get a concrete
Yeah,
answer from
So
Dean
it seems
Bryson.
like all the changes is that let's say that make us, let's say we get 3 based on the PhD performance
Right.
program, and then if we decide, well, we want to allocate 1 to 3 to then the money would come from these sources that you described.
Correct.
It's not like you can add a new one.
No. But like I said, I know that last year, at least, we were doing top-ups. If that, then you would get.
What's the time of that?
So it varies. It's like either between $3,000 to $5,000 to give to an additional student over a 4-year period. So you can kind of,
It's an additional money.
it's additional money, yeah. So I don't know what he's going to do this particular year. Those funds and numbers have changed every year. Yeah. So.
Yeah, to me, what makes sense is to partnership with the undergrad program, engage that student